Transformers Cybertron THUNDERCRACKER is one of those toys that I would classify as a weirdo. He's a weirdo, but I love him. Even the character was a weirdo. One of the few Transformers to have a country twang. And it did not work whatsoever. That reminds me, we don't have a Quick Strike yet in Legacy. We need Quick Strike from Beast Wars. We don't have him yet. He was one of the only other ones. But yeah, Cybertron THUNDERCRACKER. Me being a big THUNDERCRACKER fan, he's my favorite Seeker. I've never been the biggest fan of this interpretation of him. I always loved how his transformation was in the intro, how he just kind of popped out. I always thought that was cool. But other than that, the character, nah. And the toy, it's okay. However, I have begun the journey of going through and getting Transformers Cybertron repaints. And where there is a THUNDERCRACKER, a SKYWARP is soon to follow. Here is Transformers Cybertron THUNDERCRACKER and SKYWARP. Both of these are very, very interesting toys. There was another deco this mold got as Dive Bomb from the 07 movie. I'd love to get that one too. But I'm just talking about the Cybertron repaints. If I get Dive Bomb, it'll be a YouTube short. I can transform this guy in a minute. I can make that short happen. But yeah, I got SKYWARP for like $10 at the toy department. And I figured, hey, I haven't reviewed this mold at all yet. So I'm going to talk about both of these in one video because why not? So, yeah, this is a very interesting mold. I've learned to not identify what kind of jet this is because whenever I try, everyone always says I'm wrong. Even when I look the TF Wiki as the source, everyone's like, oh, that's not an F-22. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, this is a jet. I'm sure it's one of the F model fighter jets, but I'm not the guy that's going to ID it. If you want to ID it in the comments, you can join the other 10 people that are doing that, but I'm not interested. It's a cool toy of a fighter jet with little missiles sculpted in, and oddly enough, THUNDERCRACKER has this orange panel lining. What? That is so weird. It's so odd that he has orange panel lining. Especially since SKYWARP, he doesn't have any panel lining. He just has this odd, like, camouflage. So no panel lining on SKYWARP, but on THUNDERCRACKER, he's a gray jet. So when you think of THUNDERCRACKER, do you think of him as a gray jet with orange panel lining? Because that's what he is. Now, granted, flipping him around, the robot mode has a lot of blue on it. So thankfully, he is still blue. He's still THUNDERCRACKER. However, a lot of the purple from SKYWARP is not from the robot mode. It's from the, vehicle mode. So that's very interesting. Definitely interesting. However, this is a nice jet. I definitely enjoy it. I gotta say, I prefer the SKYWARP colors, even though mine has a warped wing. It's made out of soft plastic. I just need to hit it with a hairdryer. Yeah, I definitely prefer the SKYWARP colors. Something about it. I think it's the purple. It's a very nice, vibrant, rich purple. And it looks like the kind of thing that a kid from 05 would look at and say, hell yeah, that's a nice shade of purple. I love the white, too. I love the white little highlights. It's definitely the superior color scheme. Even though it is lacking a little bit of paint that THUNDERCRACKER has, doesn't have as much silver. The Decepticon badge is in a different spot and also smaller, which is odd. And also, it seems like however they printed the Decepticon badge on with the Cybertron's THUNDERCRACKER, it's almost like they cropped it and they cut off the horns of the badge. Because you can see they're sharp on this, but they're not on the THUNDERCRACKER. Very odd. But yeah, still very nice. Definitely enjoy both of these. I appreciate all the little decos and everything. You can see even SKYWARP has a little bit of extra on his shoulder, so that's nice. Both of them are pretty well painted, I'll say that. Pretty well painted. I definitely appreciate the silver missiles with the orange tips, though. Even though these missiles, the tips are painted, the missiles are just all gray plastic, so very, very cool jets. Definitely enjoy both of these. So the Cyberplanet key gimmick actually works in both modes. So we're going to take this massive... Actually, we don't need to move that at all. I almost moved it, but we don't have to move it. We just have to take our Cyberplanet key, we plug it into the butt, and then the missile pops out. You can see there's a little missile right there. It pops out. I'm trying to remember. Those are the buttons back there. It shoots the missile. Hooray. Love that. You can also see his little face poking out when you do that. Very funny. Very funny. But yeah, we can just go ahead and close that. And to see it on SKYWARP as well. Let's just go ahead. Boom! Hello, I'm SKYWARP. So there's that. Very, very fun jet modes. Let's get these guys into robot mode. I don't want to wait anymore. It's kind of funny that I had a little callback to the G2 Cyberjet with my whole "it's not an F-22" comments. I'm not that bothered about it, by the way. I just like hamming it up. Because this transformation is actually very similar to a G2 Cyberjet, especially with how the arms are formed. So this whole big thing back here is actually one of the arms. It does a whole swing-me-do around, and it's actually pretty impressive. But especially this part of the transformation feels so much like a G2 Cyberjet. How this whole back panel like flips down and everything. We're actually almost done. I've just been blabbering the whole time, and we're almost done with it. He does actually have a concealed hand with a panel. Definitely appreciate that. I miss little hand panels. I feel like it wouldn't cost him that much to add a little panel to, you know, fill in the gap. This arm, though, it's kind of odd. You kind of have to like tab it in, but it doesn't tab in super securely. So it can still kind of flop out a little bit depending on the pose. But that's pretty much it. Last thing we got to do is fold the feet out. And the feet are kind of concealed in a very typical Seeker way where we flip the little fuselage, put that back in, and flip the little feeties out. Love that. Very adorable. But if you don't want him posed like with those, it almost looks like he's flying around. Definitely love that. But yeah, flip him out. Get the little feet. Come on. And here we are. Here is Cybertron THUNDERCRACKER in his robot mode. And while I'm talking about THUNDERCRACKER's wacko robot mode, I'm actually going to be transforming SKYWARP. I'm gonna do a little bit of a double duty, shall we say. So the robot mode on the THUNDERCRACKER, this whole mold actually, is this very bizarre. It's very oddly proportioned. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but I think one of the biggest things that throws it off is that massive gun arm. It's just so in the way all the time. And there's no real good way of posing him with it. It's just a massive gun arm, and it's just there, and there's just not much you can really do to help it. Wow, that was really stuck in there. The missile must have fired. But yeah, it's just kind of stuck there. And also how it's on this armature, I can see a kid that's not being careful absolutely snapping that. Yeah, it's very odd. The head sculpt is kind of dopey, too, in a weird way. Usually Cybertron gives us really nice head sculpts. But something about this one, once we get in close, you'll be able to see. He just kind of looks sad, a little dopey in a way. Especially compared to that really cool clip I showed at the start of him, like, transforming from the intro. He just doesn't have that vibe. He doesn't have that cool vibe to the head sculpt. And we'll get a closer look as well. But we're almost done with SKYWARP here. I definitely prefer the SKYWARP colors, even though I am more of a THUNDERCRACKER fan, especially for this toy, since the SKYWARP is predominantly purple and has like the black head like a more classic Seeker. I think the SKYWARP is far more successful. So here they are. Here is our SKYWARP and THUNDERCRACKER in their Cybertron Deluxe robot modes. Getting in close, you can kind of see what I mean about the head sculpt. It just looks a little dopey. Like, it just looks a little sad. Something about it. He doesn't really have any expression, any life going on. He's just he's just a little sad. It's okay. It's okay, THUNDERCRACKER and SKYWARP. You'll be fine. But where's our Starscream? Yeah, where's Starscream at? Yeah, I've got some bad news, guys. You're never repainted into Starscream. What? Yeah, oddly enough, even though this mold is THUNDERCRACKER and SKYWARP, they never repainted it into Starscream. Because obviously, Starscream in Cybertron was a very different body, and it was a very cooler body. It was much more impressive, much more awesome, and I kind of wish all the Seekers were that body, but that's okay. This character design, however, did get a Starscream redeco, because this character design got a Legends class toy that ended up getting repainted into Starscream. But unfortunately, if you want to have the Decepticon trio in weird, massive cannon arm form, you can only get THUNDERCRACKER and SKYWARP. If you want Dive Bomb to be their leader from the 07 movie, be my guest, or a really tiny Starscream. But yeah, I'm okay with just these two. Because I've got the original Cybertron Starscream. He'll be the leader, and these guys will be the little lackeys. Yeah, you can see the robot mode. Pretty much all the robot mode details were seen on the undercarriage of the jet. You can see the little arms. I do appreciate the red paint on the shoulders of SKYWARP. The little thighs. I kind of like how the wings sort of fold into the thigh. Kind of adds a little bit of extra shape. Especially since the silhouette is completely lost with the fact that the wings do nothing. They're absolutely static. They can't fold up at all. They can't move at all. They're just static. It's, it's not that bad, but it's always been a more awkward toy from the Cybertron line, in my opinion. All right, so for articulation, they've both got a swivel at the head. They have universals at the shoulders, which actually isn't too bad, but do keep in mind the shoulders is kind of going to flop around and do its own thing. Single elbow on this one, as well as a bicep swivel, but it seems like it does have a bicep swivel. Just keep in mind the shoulder pad might kind of get in the way. And it has a wrist that is, I almost thought it was assembled backwards on mine. It just looks weird and awkward. But it does have a little bit of movement, I guess. Nothing at the waist. Let's go over the hips with SKYWARP here. Let's give him his little turn to shine. They are on ball joints. You can kind of see they're almost ratcheted ball joints in a weird way, just with how they're shaped. So they do have ball joint motion, but just keep in mind they're not going to move super smooth. Thigh swivel. You do have a single knee bend, and you do kind of have a little bit of toe articulation with how they uncurl in the transformation. So I guess I can do the Cyber Planet Key thing again in the robot mode, but honestly, who's that interested? Yeah, it just kind of makes it turns it into a missile, like... In the jet mode, it made a little bit more sense, because it's like, oh, hidden missile. But now it just makes this massive cannon arm just look like a weird claw. Looks like a very weird claw, and I just don't vibe with that too much, honestly. I do vibe with this figure. I'm not going to lie. I do vibe with it, but it's just very odd. It's kind of spindly for a Cybertron toy, and given how like nice and bulky Cybertron toys usually were, having this weird spindly jet boy, especially when Starscream was a super bulky, chonky Voyager, yeah, very odd iteration of Thundercracker and SKYWARP. But here we are. There they are. I love them still, despite their hideous flaws and their weird cannon arms. Do I recommend them? If you're collecting Cybertron, I'd say pick it up. You don't need all the decos. You probably just need one. Maybe pick up Dive Bomb. I think that deco's great. But yeah, you don't need this guy. You don't. I love it. It's great to me because I'm just super biased towards Cybertron. But if you're like a greater Transformers collector that you're not trying to complete the Cybertron line, you're not trying to have everything ever, and you just want you want to pluck out some of the best bits of Cybertron, you're barking up the wrong tree with these. These are not the best deluxes. If you want the best deluxes, Hot Shot, Sideways, those are fantastic. Downshift is a really good one. I haven't even talked about that one yet. I think I want to wait until I get Big Daddy. I want to get Big Daddy, and then I'll talk about that mold. And yes, there's a Transformer named Big Daddy. I love it. Alrighty, guys. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this dynamic duo of awkward Transformers Decepticons. Love them, love them, love them. Special shout out to channel members, as always. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Yeah, goodbye.